Collision detection. In this section, we are going to see how to perform collision detection in the shooting game we have been creating. Let's start by opening the Aim and Shoot project by double-clicking the Xcode project file. Here we are going to see how to identify collision of two sprite objects in Cocos2D. Let's open the game scene interface file and declare a new mutable array for storing the target spaceship sprites and another one for storing the projectile sprites. Next, go to the game scene implementation file. Inside the init method, allocate and initialize both the target and projectile mutable arrays. Now we have to populate these arrays with the corresponding sprite objects. Go to the scheduled method where we are creating the target sprite. Here, after the section where we are creating the sprite object, insert it into the target array using the add object method of NSMutableArray. We have also removed the sprite object from the array in the place where we remove the object from the scene. This can be done using the remove object method of NSMutableArray. Similarly, we have to populate the projectile array. Insert the projectile sprite objects to the array while creating them in the touchesEnded method. Also, remove the object from the array once it is removed from the scene. So now we will have all the projectile and target sprites that will be there in the screen at a given point of time in these arrays. Next, we have to use these arrays to detect collision between the projectile and the target. For this, first, we have to implement the update method, which needs to be called during every frame of the scene. Next, we have to schedule this method for every frame of the scene. We can do it in the init method of the scene. This can be done using the schedule method. So now we have the method which will be called during every frame of the scene. Next, we need to check the collision in this method. For this, we have to write a for loop to iterate through all the objects of the projectile array. Inside that, we need to get the rectangular frame of that projectile object. We have to check the collision of each projectile with each target. So we have to write another for loop to iterate through all the objects in the target array inside. Next, we can get the rectangular frame of each target object. Once we have the recs of both projectile and target objects that we are checking at a time, we have to use the cgRectIntersectsRect method to check whether these two rectangles intersect. The parameters passed to this method are the two rectangles, which we need to check for intersection at that point of time. This method will return true if both the rectangles intersect and false otherwise. Next, we have to create two NSMutableArray objects so that we can store the targets and the projectiles that are collided separately. After the collision, check iteration. Remove the contents of the newly created array objects after removing those objects from the screen. This will remove both the collided projectile and the target both at the same time as that of the collision. So we have detected the collision between projectile and target. Next, let's add some effect when a spaceship is hit by a bullet. We have to add this in the place where the collision is detected in the update method. Here we are going to use sprite sheet animation. So let's add the texture and coordinate files to the project. Next, we have to write the code to incorporate this sprite sheet to the scene. This can be done similar to how we have done for the spaceship. The only thing that we need to make sure here is that the sprite with the sprite sheet is created when the collision is detected, and the position of that sprite object is the same as that of the target sprite. Also, we have to add this new effect above the target sprite. This can be done by giving the z-index value of the new sprite greater than that of the target sprite. Run the application and open the game scene. We can see that the collision of the bullet with the target is getting detected. Now we have a working game in which when we shoot a target with a bullet, the target is destroyed with an effect. So the gameplay of our app is almost complete. So in this section, we have seen how to detect collision between two sprites and how to monitor it in real time in Cocos2D.